Hello, everybody, and welcome to ArsenGirl Gaming. My name is Heather, and I thank you for joining me for another Sims 4 speed build. This one is one that I really had fun doing. I decided to go into Windenburg, use the windows that we got in the Moschino Stuff Pack, and build an apartment building, an industrial style-ish, modern-ish apartment building with views for days because of course you know me and the water, and of course I wanted a lot of windows. I did put more windows on the front than I did on the back, surprisingly, but the view is great either way. So that at the back you've got the water views, in the front you have the city views, and I could only dream of living in an apartment building like this someday in my life. Really, I want to do one on the ocean so that I have the same kind of views. Front view, the lights of the city, the back view during the day, a gorgeous water vista, and then pure blackness at night. Oh, just seems like such a heavenly dream. Thankfully, I can make that dream come true in The Sims, and so I did. So the idea is there are actually, let's see, there's 2 apartments per floor, but the top 2 floors are kind of like a penthouse apartment. So if you own the 3rd story apartment, you get 2 stories in your house. So really, it's only 6 apartments in this building, and the top one has a couple extra amenities, like the top, or actually I shouldn't say just the top one. So there's, because on either side there's apartments, and the top 2 apartments, the penthouses, share a communal pool, but only those 2 apartments can use the pool, and the pool is a rooftop pool. They also have a patio space on the front, so they get like their own little veranda, and then they have the pool area where they can barbecue and do that stuff. And then the lower apartments all have their own patio space as well. Everybody has indoor outdoor space. The layouts are really quite spacious, configured for singles or couples, unless of course you get the top 2, and then you have room for a family. You can reconfigure them. I did not furnish these apartments. I left them unfurnished, and I did upload this to the gallery. So if you want to download it and furnish it, if you want to tag me and tag me with Old Salt House Apartments or whatever, just let me know that you furnished it and re-upload it to the gallery. I'd love to tour them at some point. So that would be kind of fun if you feel like taking on that challenge. It's not an official challenge, but of course, anytime I do a build, if you want to go in the gallery and download it and put your spin on it and then let me know, I am totally happy to go in and download it into my game and then do a tour of the house or apartments, as this may be, or anything really. I just love seeing what you guys do with what I put out there, and I'm having so much fun building these days and trying to kind of like stretch my creative juices away from just tiny houses, which is really, it's really a challenge for me because I like to build tiny houses. And so to build a bigger house, not only a bigger house, but a 6 unit house like this apartment building, was really challenging and fun. And I am so proud of it. Like, so proud of it. I could see this form factor being in a real life downtown area. And it kind of gives me like chills when I think about how much I like this build. So I hope you guys like it as much as I do. Because otherwise, then, what am I saying? I don't know. I guess at that point, I'll just ask you not to tell me what you're thinking, because I don't want anybody to burst my bubble because I like this build so much. And I really tried to kind of give some visual interest, but I had the storyline. Like, you know me, I know if you watch any of my other builds, I always kind of make up a story in my head as to who I'm building this for or why I'm building this. And in this case, this building was the old salt house factory, right? So even though this building technically didn't exist, I envisioned that it did, and it created salt. I don't know. It did something. It was an industrial building, and a developer came in. The developer, I guess, being me, came in and revitalized it, turned it into these 6 apartments, and kind of gave it new life, so that you still have feeling of the old building, so like the brick and otherwise, in the kind of the shape of the building as it is, with the addition of like the patios in the back and so forth. But you had that old factory feel, and it's been converted, because I absolutely love all the ideas of the conversions of buildings into livable spaces after they're no longer being used as, oh, kind of a commercial entity. Just to tell you a little bit of a story, there was a time when I lived in Ohio. I don't even know if my family knows this story, so I'm going to just share it with you. That I had dreamt of buying something like this and being able to convert it. So there were 2 buildings that I actually think about often, and kind of wish I had bought. The town we lived in has a uptown area and kind of a little outside of uptown area that have been around for hundreds of years. And one of the buildings was like, I don't even know what it was originally used for, but it was on this corner right by the reservoir. And for a long time, they sold like bait and stuff out of this building, but it had all these like gorgeous windows, and it was right on this intersection, and it had been abandoned. Nobody had done anything with it for, gosh, decades. And every time I would drive by that, I would be like, oh, I really would just love to have the money to come in here, buy this, turn it into my house, and make it my own, but keep the outside looking like it did 100 years ago. And while the inside then becomes like this gorgeous being. And I remember one time being able to like take a walk down the street where this building was, because it's like a main street. Like, it's not the most ideal place to live, like to have your home, but there are houses on this street, but it is a main street. I want to say it's like 4 lanes, 2 lanes each direction. You have the Reservoir Park, like just maybe a block down the street, and you can go across the bridge. Anyway, I remember going on a walk and actually being able to like go up on the steps and peek in the windows, and that really just fueled me. I was like, I just really, really want this. And maybe someday, if I ever decide to invest in my old hometown of Ohio, maybe I will look into this building again if it doesn't get torn down and turned into something else before then. Okay, and then there was a second one. Now that one was kind of on like the outskirts. So it was like by the reservoir. It was, a little bit of ways from this next one. The next one was in the uptown area of the town that I lived in. So basically, it's a 2 lane street with commercial buildings on either side, and then some of them have like apartments and stuff over them. They were all built in like, oh my gosh, like the 1800s. I think prohibition. I don't know what my timing is, but it's gorgeous. And over the years, the houses and things, some of them have been rebuilt and some have been repurposed. And like what used to be at one point when my mom was a little girl was a movie theater, got turned into like Amish furniture company. And all this kind of really cool stuff has happened in this place. Now, traffic's a nightmare because it is only 2 lanes. Of course, when the founding fathers built it, they didn't plan for, any big traffic, but it's kind of like the hot spot in the town. So everybody wants to go there. And nowadays, like there used to be an old Japanese tea house, and it has been razed, like torn down completely, which I always loved it. It was so beautiful. Even when nobody was using it, it was just such a beautiful architecture. But anyway, they tore it down a few years ago, and they built something else in its place. But at the time that we were looking for our last house, there was a building, and I believe it used to be an old bank building, and it was for sale. And it was right in the heart of Uptown. And I Loved that building. Brick facade and parking in back. And I mean, it was definitely meant to be a commercial building, but it was so adorable. And I was like, I would love to buy that and convert that. So you see where I'm going? Like, I like to take things that were meant for one thing and convert them into something else. So I really, really had dreamt about it. And I didn't really tell my husband because I knew it was probably more money than we could afford to put into it. And I was really curious to see what would happen. Well, it ended up selling, and I think they turned it into a daycare. Yeah, I think it's a preschool daycare now. But those are just dreams that I've always had. I love watching, like, I know I talk about HGTV probably way too much, but I love watching the HGTV shows where they go in and they'll take like an old firehouse and they'll turn it into this like gorgeous house, or they'll take an old one-room schoolhouse and they'll turn it into this gorgeous little getaway. And anytime you can repurpose something, I'm a big, big fan of repurposing. I like to make in all parts of my life, I like to use things that were meant for one thing and use them for purposes other than what they were meant for. If I need to buy, a container, and say it's a container for makeup, I won't go look at makeup containers for that makeup. I'll go look at other interesting containers that I could convert to make work for the makeup, because usually it ends up being more attractive or gives it just a little bit more interest, and oftentimes ends up costing less because you're not paying that tax that they give you for whatever they have decided that the purpose is of that being. So the same thing with houses. I really love the idea of being able to take something and convert it and not have it be exactly the same as my neighbors. Like I live in a neighborhood now, which I love my house. Do not get me wrong. I love my house. It's charming. It's really cute. The people who owned it before us painted it really pretty, and it from the outside, it's probably one of the nicer looking houses, in my opinion, on my street. But all the houses on my street were built within a span of like 2 or 3 years in the early 70s. And there's maybe like three or four models. So when you drive down my street, like every third house is my model. And kind of have this little thing on Zillow where I go in and I look at any of them that have sold or are on the market, look at the pictures, see how they have like reconfigured the inside, because outside they're very much 70s ranch houses and they all really have kind of the same flavor. And it's kind of funny because it's very, very specific architecture and it's very, very cookie cutter, yet everybody has kind of over the last 40 years put their spin on these houses. So while some may look like they were stuck in 1974, some like my house look a little bit more modern and up to date, and it's kind of fun, but at the same time, if I could have something that was completely unique and not like all my neighbors, and I could afford that, that would be what I would go for. Because I don't like cookie cutter. I really like things that are different, but I buy what I buy just for different reasons, like budget, or maybe I want to be in a particular neighborhood. So to be in that area in my budget, I have to buy XYZ house or whatever. But it doesn't stop me from dreaming about something like the old Salt House apartments and doing a conversion. So I keep on dreaming, and thankfully, I have The Sims, which allows me to create and do a lot of the things that I can't do in real life, in preparation for maybe the times in my real life where I actually will be able to have these kind of things or create these kind of things or experience these kind of things. I mean, I love tiny houses. I know I'll probably never live in one. I won't think I ever really want to live in one, but I love converted houses, and I certainly hope before I die that I am able to buy one and that I am able to convert one. And I guess I'm repeating myself, but until then, I will continue to do so in The Sims. And I hope everybody enjoys watching me do it, because it's just my creative outlet. And while I may not be the best builder in the world, I do put a lot of heart and a lot of soul into what I'm building. and this is what I come up with. So I hope you enjoyed my rambling because I did a lot of it in this video, and I don't believe that I rambled this long that we're at the end screenshots, but I do really hope you enjoyed the old Salt House apartments and what the finished result is. I really love them, especially once I put the fire escape on the outside. That was like the piece de resistance for me. I did have to do a little reconfiguration, but I love how it turned out, and I think each apartment has its own charm. They're often mirrors of one another, but they're separated enough that an owner can come in and do what they want to them, make them their own. They're ready to be decorated, they're ready to be purchased, furnished, converted, whatever you guys want to do. They're in the gallery waiting for you to put your touch on them. Again, like I said, if you do and you re-upload to the gallery, make sure to let me know. Somehow reach out to me on my Discord, reach out to me on Twitter. Let me know because I would love to tour them. But I guess if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you watched. And of course, if you're new to my channel and you'd like to see more, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, let YouTube know you would like notifications when I post something new on the channel, because that's the only way that you can be sure you won't miss out on any more of my ramblings or otherwise. And until next time, you guys have a great one.